It's January, and we all know what January means. It means there's a lot of people out there who are setting an intention or a goal to lose weight. And with that, inevitably comes an overload of information, which can cause quite a lot of stress. I'm sure you've already been bombarded with so many opinions and advice and a plethora of programs that you can follow. So I thought, let's talk about it. Let's discuss what you really need for weight loss, and not just that, but maintainable weight loss. Discuss what's important, what's not important, and how you can make it work for your lifestyle, because that is going to be vital to being able to sustain it and be consistent. So in a way, we're talking about how you can make a weight loss routine, but we're also really talking about what's important in weight loss, what you can forget about, and how you can make it work for your lifestyle. The first thing I want to say, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times before, is that there is no one size fits all. You need to make it personal to your lifestyle, because you are completely unique. You are completely different to everyone else out there. So you need to start thinking of this as going, how am I going to make this work for my lifestyle? I know when I was losing weight, I didn't really initially put too much thought into this, but I definitely noticed as I went on and I learned more about health and fitness, I learned more about myself, I started to notice what would work for me, what didn't work for me, and of course things change and meander as you go along. One other huge thing is that my knowledge increased. You know, when we're starting something for the first time, and it doesn't have to be health and fitness related, it can be literally anything, we don't go in knowing everything. But what actually happens is you learn so much along the way. And what I often see is that people in regards to weight loss or health and fitness are stuck at that initial phase of feeling like they need to know everything to get started, when simply that's kind of just procrastination at its finest. We're never going to know everything we need to know, and actually you're going to learn so much more by just getting started, maybe making some mistakes, seeing some progress, and just basically seeing it like a jigsaw, trying different pieces and seeing which fits together. It's really beneficial to view your health and fitness journey like this, because those pieces are always going to be changing as well, and you need to be able to adapt to those in the future. The second preface I want to put on this video is that you don't need a routine. Every single day can look completely different, because your body is going to be different every day. Your energy levels, your sleep, your hydration, what you're eating, what you're doing that day, your mood, all these things are constantly fluctuating. So to go out with the intention of having a strict routine that you're going to follow to the letter every single day might be unrealistic if you're not that type of person. I am not that type of person. I can wake up in the morning and feel amazing and be super motivated and proactive and have a day full of energy, and the next day I can wake up and feel the complete opposite. I feel like I get nothing productive done. So if I was to set myself a super strict routine in terms of what I was eating, what exercise I was doing, what lifestyle factors I was managing, what progress markers I was using, I just know it wouldn't work for me. I need to take a much more flexible approach. So while you're watching this video, remember that firstly, everybody is completely different, and secondly, it doesn't matter if you don't have a routine and if your days look different every single day. The principles still matter, and the main thing is whatever you're doing is helping you to stay consistent, so then you can sustain this for a period of time and it's maintainable. If what you're doing now is not something that you can see yourself doing for a long period in the future, maybe it's time to reassess what you're doing. All right, let's start with the big boy, nutrition. Arguably the most important aspect of weight loss, in my opinion. And perhaps you're gonna hate me for this, because I'm gonna tell you that it's impossible for me to sit here and tell you through a camera how you should eat for weight loss, because again, it's individual to you. And this is gonna be a very, very important theme throughout this video. But nutrition. The very, very basic concept is that we need to bring in less energy on a consistent basis than our body is expending. Now, you probably already have a million questions going around in your brain, and I totally get that. But if we want to look at it as black and white as possible, that is simply what we need to try and achieve. We need to consistently have less energy coming in than our body is expending. So to look at this in the most basic way possible, and this is something that really helped me out when I was losing weight, if you're at a point where what you're doing in terms of how much you eat in general and how much you move in general hasn't really caused any changes in your body for a good period of time, let's say 6 to 8 months, then that would suggest that your current energy expenditure and your current energy intake are equivalent to how many calories or how much energy your body needs per day. And likewise, if you've been slowly gaining weight, noticing that you've been increasing body fat over a period of time, then that would suggest that you're consuming more energy than your body requires, and therefore you're storing it as body fat. And vice versa, if you notice that you've been losing weight, then that would suggest that with your current activity level, so energy burnt, and your consumption, energy coming in, you're in a calorie deficit, so you have less calories coming in than your body requires, and that will elicit fat loss. And obviously these things take time and they need to be on a fairly consistent basis. But that is the most simple, basic way that you could potentially look at it, is look at what your body has been doing and use that as a bit of a clue as to what needs to change. If you've been maintaining or gaining body fat, and indeed your goal is to lose body fat or lose weight, then it would suggest that with your current energy expenditure and your current energy intake, you just need to reduce your intake slightly, or the other option is that you could increase your energy expenditure. But we'll talk about exercise a little bit later because it's actually not important. So from that perspective, a good place to start could simply just be reducing what you're eating. Now, obviously, you can reduce what you're eating in so many different ways. For me, what I did was I reduced my portions. I made some switches to some slightly less calorific alternatives with things like sauces, and I reduced easy calories that I could, for example, taking sugar out of my coffee, or switching my daily coffee to having an Americano, which is mostly water, rather than having a milky coffee. One huge point to remember though, and I want to emphasize this, is that you do not need to cut out any foods. For some people, it may help them if they want to. They just find that that motivates them a little bit better, but you do not need to cut out anything. Chocolate, pizza, salads, yogurts, whatever it is that you enjoy has a place in a balanced and healthy diet, so you do not need to cut it out. So obviously for me, I reduced portion sizes and I made some simple switches. I've also got a little list of some of the methods that my clients have used to reduce their calories over the last couple of years, because there is, like I said, just so many options. So of course there's the ability to use tracking software to track your meals and to see what you're eating. You could choose to track everything that you eat, or maybe just snacks or certain meals if you don't want it to be so intrusive on your life. But this can give you a bit of an idea as to how many calories you're consuming and also keep you accountable. I've had clients that will prioritize protein over everything else. This is always something that's quite useful because we want to manage hunger as much as possible, and protein is one of the more satiating foods. So if you're eating a bit more protein and prioritizing that first, then you might notice that your hunger decreases a little bit and naturally you eat a little bit less. There's always the option to use different cooking methods. So if you were deep frying something originally, then maybe you could pan fry it, maybe you could use an air fryer. Looking at the good old-fashioned food journal, writing what you're having down, or taking photos of everything that you eat. And again, this comes from an accountability perspective. One that I've seen be extremely useful for quite a few people, and it's something that I would suggest to basically anybody because it's just a good practice, is mindful eating. So when you're consuming something, actually serve it up onto a plate, sit down, enjoy it, eat it undistracted, try to think about what you're eating, the flavors, the smell, the textures, really pay attention to what you're eating. This way, not only do you enjoy your food and you get that mindfulness in a little bit more, but because you're not so distracted, you may notice your hunger signals and then manage your consumption a little bit better. Because I know for me, if I'm standing at the kitchen counter digging into a box of cereal straight out of the box, I can just get completely distracted on my phone or watching TV. Before I know it, I've probably eaten like 2 bowls of cereal. And another popular one is looking at meal timings or which meals you actually have. So some people don't feel like they need breakfast, so they'd rather put their calories towards the end of the day, and that means that they're eating slightly less. There's always things like intermittent fasting as well that really work for some people and don't work so well for others. But as you can see, there are so many options, and I've just barely scratched the surface. So what we really want to do is think, okay, I need to reduce how much I'm consuming because at the moment I'm either at maintenance or I'm consuming more energy than I'm required to. How can I best do that for my lifestyle in a way that I can sustain? And take an experimental approach. It's kind of like Goldilocks and just trying all the different porridges until you find something that suits you. So try to take an experimental approach, see how you go with it, focus more on, can I sustain this? Does this work for my lifestyle? Rather than trying to see results straight away, because again, we'll come on to progress in a bit, but it's not going to happen straight away. So focus on getting these habits and these methods down in a way that work for you before anything else. Now, one thing that really does kind of suck when it comes to weight loss is hunger. And we would expect somebody who is in a calorie deficit to experience a little bit of hunger. Not two extremes. You shouldn't have extremely low energy or extreme hunger, but unfortunately, hunger is a part of it. It's just in our physiology that our bodies are going to signal to our brains that they want more food. And quite frankly, it can be a little bit demoralizing, especially if you're living in a household where other people don't necessarily have the same goals as you, so they might be eating more and not experiencing the same thing. It can be frustrating. So managing hunger might become quite important, and there's a couple of little things that we can do that will help with that. Firstly, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but we can look at managing certain lifestyle factors that influence our hunger. Stuff like getting getting good quality and quantity of sleep and making sure that we're hydrated and try to manage stress as much as possible. But also we can look at specifically what we're eating. So I mentioned protein being quite satiating, but protein, fats and fiber are really the magic three in terms of our nutrition that are going to help us feel fuller for longer. So if you're prioritizing protein and getting a decent amount of fat and fiber in your diet, then hopefully this should help manage your hunger. Again, we still expect to see some hunger, but if we can make it as easy as possible, that's what we want to do. That is the biggie, the nutrition, and I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. I do have quite a lot of videos about calories, total daily energy expenditure, deficits, and I have ones about how you can eat in a deficit or different meal ideas and that sort of stuff as well, if you want more information. But in this video, I wanted just to keep it as simple as possible and the least scary and overwhelming as possible as well, because I know how it feels because I was there. And that brings us on nicely to something that I think is really important, which is managing lifestyle factors. I know when a lot of people set out to lose weight, they immediately jump into the idea of, I need to exercise, I need to train, what's the best exercise for weight loss? And they ignore some of the most simple things that they can do which are going to help them along the way. And that is managing some very simple lifestyle factors that we experience every single day. Firstly, and this is huge for so many reasons that I would need an entire different video on, but managing stress is crucial. We can't always be in a situation where we're not going to be stressed. Of course, stress arises from our relationships, from work, emotional stress, physical stress, you name it. We're going to have stress in our lives. However, if we can manage and limit stress as much as possible, it's going to give us a good hand up in being able to manage our nutrition and lose weight as well. I'll try and explain in one simple sentence, but the reason why managing stress is important is because stress elicits a lot of different responses in our body. Firstly, from a hormonal perspective, we release cortisol, and physiologically, cortisol can wreak a bit of havoc on our bodies. It can increase our hunger and our cravings for certain foods. It can affect our sleep and our energy and our mood, for example. But also chronic stress can lead to emotional eating, for example, as a coping mechanism. And these can become habits over a long period of time. And not only will they have an impact on your body, but also on your mind and your mental health. So managing stress as much as possible becomes quite important, and stress in all its forms. Remember, exercise is a form of stress, lack of sleep is a form of stress, as well as everything that we normally know. On that note, sleep quality and quantity is something also to pay attention to. When we don't get a good amount of sleep, or we're not getting good quality sleep, again, we get an increase of cortisol. It affects the way that our brain functions, we don't make such great decisions, and also our motivation and our mood decrease as well. So prioritizing quality and quantity of sleep can be really, really helpful. And the last one I'm going to mention is just staying hydrated. I feel like it's pot to kettle black because I'm awful at drinking water. However, I have got better. But just making sure that you're hydrated is a really simple tool to managing hunger, making sure that you have a good amount of energy and general well-being. And I'm sure, because if me 7 years ago was watching this video, I'd be thinking, how much water do I need to drink? Just look at your pee. If it's really yellow, drink some more water. If it's pretty clear or light yellow, you're fine. So those are some really, really helpful things that you can just start to prioritize a little bit and focus on. And the reason why these are important is because they make sure that you have energy, they help manage hunger and general well-being, but they all have an impact on each other as well. Additionally, when all these things are in check, naturally we move a little bit more, and our non-exercise activity thermogenesis, basically all the unplanned activity and movements that we do throughout the day, like me moving my hands right now, becomes a little bit easier, and we actually tend to do a little bit more of it. But the great news is all of that is subconscious. We don't even notice it. So it's just basically a win-win. And that brings us on to the big one, the one that everyone's probably been waiting for, and I feel like I'm just going to serve you a big old plate of disappointment, and that is exercise. Because I'm going to sit here and tell you that you don't need to exercise. It's actually not important for weight loss. Managing your nutrition and your lifestyle factors and being able to do those things consistently are 1 trillion times more important than any exercise that you're going to do for weight loss. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say exercise does not have an impact. Of course it does. Exercise requires energy. So yes, you're burning calories if you exercise. However, firstly, you're probably not burning as many calories as you think, regardless of what type of exercise you're doing. So if you're purely coming at exercise from a standpoint of wanting to help you lose weight, it's not the most effective way of doing it. And also, we can't very accurately know how many calories we're burning through exercise. So it becomes a little bit of a redundant tool. Now, obviously, I'm a personal trainer, so a huge aspect of my job is exercise related. And there are huge and vast benefits to exercising, and we'll go through a few of them in the moment, because yes, there are definitely huge benefits to exercising. However, in terms of solely weight loss, what I constantly see is people thinking that they need to exercise on a consistent basis, not being able to do it because they're not motivated one day, or they don't have the energy, or they're just busy, and then beating themselves up and just going back to the beginning, thinking that they've ruined everything. And it breaks my heart because it makes so little difference. There are so many reasons why exercise is a challenge for a lot of people. Maybe you have injuries, or you have health conditions. Maybe you have a really busy work and home schedule. Maybe you don't know what you're doing, and those things can come in the future. But don't put yourself in a position where you're putting pressure on yourself to do so much exercise and saying to yourself, if I don't do these things, I don't tick those boxes, that I've failed and I can't achieve what I need to achieve. If we want to look at energy expenditure, aka how much energy our bodies are burning on a regular basis, then there are so many factors that go into that have nothing to do with exercise. In fact, exercise is the smallest piece of the pie. It can be about 5% of your daily energy expenditure. The biggest portion is just simply being alive, just waking up. And if you just lay in bed, your body still requires well over 1,000 calories. Obviously, it's different for everyone depending on your age, your gender, your weight, your height, your body composition, but your body requires well over 1,000 calories just to be alive. Your body is burning energy sitting here watching this video. The second biggest chunk of energy expenditure is through non-exercise activity, thermogenesis, a very fancy word, as I mentioned before, for all the unplanned movements. So if you want to target energy expenditure along with reducing your caloric intake, just move a little bit more. And it doesn't even have to be parking at the back of the car parking lot and walking to the supermarket. It can be as simple as being a little bit more animated or fidgety when you're sitting at your desk. It can be about cooking your meals rather than ordering a takeout, so you're actually in the kitchen, moving around, doing something for half an hour while you cook. Some really, really simple ways that I increase my NEAT is, for example, if I'm blow drying my hair, I'll stand instead of sit. There's always the temptation just to sit on the side of my bed and blow dry my hair, but I'll stand instead. If I'm bringing through big loads of laundry and I can't really get all of it in one go, but I'm tempted, I'm just like, I'm gonna save myself a trip, I'm gonna hold all of this in one go, I just go, no, screw it, I'm gonna make 2 trips. And it's literally 10 steps from the living room and 10 steps back. But that is all adding up throughout the day to increase my NEAT. So just simply increasing your general movement is gonna have a much bigger impact than doing 4 training sessions a week. That being said, if you enjoy the process of exercising and you find it motivating and you have a little bit of you time and you'd like to see progress in terms of getting stronger or fitter or learning a new skill or whatever it might be, 100% I would recommend putting exercise into your day. Obviously, I'm an advocate for it because I love it. I love moving my body, and it's become so habitual for me to do that compared to the person I was 7 years ago who rarely did any exercise. But instead of approaching exercise with the question, what's going to burn the most calories or the most energy, try to think about what's going to make me feel the best, what's going to make me feel that I'm achieving something or motivated. For me, I do various types of training, but you guys probably know that my one true love is calisthenics, and I love it because it's social and it's challenging, not just physically but mentally. Learning a new skill and actually working towards it for months and months, sometimes even years, and actually seeing progress, even if it's just minute amounts of progress, is such an amazing feeling. I like the way it makes my body feel. I stand taller, I feel stronger, I'm able to walk up the stairs easier and take the bins out. There are so many other benefits than simply burning energy. So the conclusion to the exercise part of this video is, don't stress about it. If you don't have the time, you don't have the motivation, you don't have the knowledge, you can learn these things, and you will if that's something that's important to you. But in terms of simply losing weight, it's not important. And maybe shifting your focus to generally increasing your movement day to day is gonna have a much bigger impact on your weight loss than exercise will. And that brings us on to the final point of this video. And this is a bit more mindset, longevity, consistency, motivation. Firstly, I'm going to talk about progress tracking. It is important to track your progress because I know a huge sticking point for a lot of people is not seeing progress quick enough. And they think that it's not working, or they think that they're failing, or it's simply just not motivating to not see any changes. So firstly, it's about realistic expectations or managing your expectations. These things take time. I'm sure you've heard it a million times before, but it takes a while to put on body weight. and it takes a while to come back off again. And that doesn't even cover the fact that the scales aren't always reflective of what's really going on. So for that reason, it's important to track your progress in lots of different areas and in lots of different ways. And again, you have to make it work for your lifestyle. If you don't have a good relationship with the scale, do not weigh yourself. You don't need to weigh yourself. You know your body well enough to know what is happening. Do your clothes fit the same, or are they fitting a little bit better? You can take physical measurements with a tape measure. That's going to give you a much better idea of what's going on. Photos are a fantastic tool because they reflect a lot more than simply the size of your body. You can see things like how your posture is changing and how you hold yourself. And trust me, these things are really apparent when you see them. If you are exercising or following some type of program focusing on strength gain or progress with your exercise or your fitness, even your functionality, can you pick your kids up better? Or your massive cat? These things can be really, really motivating, completely aside from weight loss. In fact, I've had a few clients whose initial goal was to lose body fat. And as they've gone along the journey, that goal has changed to wanting to see strength gain and progress in their body rather than losing weight, because they've actually found that they enjoy that more and they like the feeling of feeling more functional and stronger versus what their body actually looks like. Again, it just goes to show that this journey is constantly meandering. Your goals are going to change, your preferences are going to change, and we're just kind of on this roller coaster, just going through these ups and downs and just trying to take it as it comes. So progress tracking in lots of different ways is going to be helpful so you can reflect back when you're feeling like you're not making progress and see it. But then that also lends into the idea of time frames. What are realistic expectations in terms of losing weight? And I always say to myself in lots of different regards, under promise and over deliver. Set yourself a generous goal. Try not to expect anything for at least 3, 4, even up to 6 months, and try to focus more on building the habits, being sustainable, enjoying the process, finding what works for you. The chances are that you will see progress quicker than that. But if you set yourself out to see progress in 4 or 6 weeks, it's realistically just not going to happen. I know for me, I didn't lose any significant amount of weight for at least 6 to 8 weeks. But then after that, it came off really, really quickly, and I started to notice that I was having to buy clothes all the time because it was happening so fast. And I know that if I had felt discouraged in that first 6 to 8 weeks, I would have just given up. Whereas I was focusing more on managing my nutrition and trying to build these new habits and taking that inquisitive approach of what I can do and just doing it, that it kept me going, and I wasn't so much results orientated. And the last point I'm going to make, which is weird that it's at the end because I feel like it's usually at the very beginning of a video like this, and that is understanding why this is important to you. And this is the thing, it has to be important to you. This has to be something that you want and you're not doing for somebody else, because if it's important enough for you, you will find a way and you will just stay committed to the process. You're going to roll with the ups and you're going to roll with the downs, and you're going to just accept that these things are a journey and that we're meandering along it. So really try to understand why it's important to you. You can journal on it, you can think about it. You don't need the answer today, but it's something that you need to reflect on a lot, because that's what's going to be important to tap into when your motivation dips, because it will happen. We're not all motivated all the time. You're going to tap into why you're really doing it, what the purpose is, and also those habits that you're building along the way. You want those habits to become your foundation, like your minimal effective dose, things that you do every single day, like brushing your teeth and making your bed. We don't really enjoy doing them, but it's something that we just do because that's what we do. And that is it. I hope this video has helped in some way. I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. This topic I know is really overwhelming. So please don't beat yourself up if you're feeling overwhelmed, because that is completely normal. But try to take that inquisitive approach, try to personalize it to you, accept that there's going to be a journey ahead and it's constantly going to be changing, and you're going to put yourself in the best position possible to move forward. And if in doubt, always come back to that question of, what is the purpose of me doing this? Why is it important to me? And is what I'm doing today something that I can see myself doing for many, many years in the future? Because ultimately that's when it becomes a lifestyle rather than a diet. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or any thoughts that have come up, please do drop them down below, because I love chatting to you guys and hearing your thoughts. Otherwise, don't beat yourselves up. I hope you're having a beautiful start to 2023, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.